What's up, guys? Welcome back to Have Faith, Show Love, Give Hope. Today I have Tim Scott. What's up, Tim? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for reaching out to me. I seen one day, so backstory of how we actually started interacting. One day I seen a post of some lady who was asking about vitamins. And I was big into health and fitness and all this stuff, listening to health podcasts. And I seen that you wrote on there that if you're going to take vitamins, make sure they're methylated vitamins and all this. And I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. So then I had reached out to you and I said, hey, one day would you like to speak about this on my podcast? This was like 6-7 months ago. That was when I had Big Yogi's Garage. I was more into self-help, fitness. And now I got this my podcast, Have Faith, Show Love, Give Hope. It's the same platform. I still want to talk about health. I still want to talk about fitness. I still want to talk to people. So can you please introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah. As you introduced me, my name's Tim Scott. I was born and raised here in Toledo. I went to Washington local schools and I graduated from St. Francis. I then stayed and went to college at the University of Toledo. And then I went and did med school in Tennessee. And after I graduated medical school, my calling was to emergency medicine, and I came and trained. I was lucky to train at Detroit Receiving Hospital for a few years. And eventually, as I got done with my training and worked up there for a little bit, I made my way back home. And so I've been back in the Toledo area since about 2017. And you could find me practicing emergency medicine at a couple of the different Mercy ERs. If you ever were unfortunate enough to stop into Perrysburg, Mercy Sylvania, Mercy Defiance, you might get me taking care of you. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But over time, my focus has sort of drifted away from typical Western medicine and shifted a little bit more towards functional medicine and modern medicine. And, that's what, in addition to everything else, that's what I hope to talk today about. And I honestly, whether it's Big Yogi's Garage or Give Faith, Give Love, Have Hope, it's kind of the same thing, because without good mental health, good physical health, how can you be the best version of yourself, to do those things for other people? And I think that's step one, is yourself.
Absolutely. And all of this, it all leads to the same thing, to try to get spiritually better, healthier. Because even in the Bible, it talks about being, healthy and fasting and taking care of your temple. They're not just, when they say take care of your temple in the Bible, I believe it's not just like the church. I believe it's actually us. Even there's a part where Jesus says, you tear me down, I'll build this temple up in 3 days. And when they killed him, he came to life in 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find those kind of stories inspiring. As we talked beforehand, I told you I'm definitely more of a spiritual person. I mean, I did go to a Catholic high school and I was raised in a Catholic family. I'm not super practicing right now. I haven't really found my way there, but I definitely have a lot of spirituality, and those kinds of things inspire me. And it's funny because I have a lot of memories of my dad talking about your body being a temple and taking care of your temple, and don't put this in your temple, don't put that in your temple. So that really sort of resonates with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we want to talk about, today I was listening to a health podcast, and there was a guy on there who said that only 12% of Americans are 100% metabolically healthy. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a fascinating, statement if you think about that. And I would venture, using the word 100% metabolically healthy, like nobody's absolute, but let's just say 10% of Americans are in pretty damn good health and 90% of Americans are in some stage of not good health. And I believe that. And you really have to look back to, okay, what does that come to? And, I think people are always trying to find what's different between now and the 1950s, 60s, 70s. My parents did it this way and they're fine. I was raised this way and I'm fine. I'm going to raise my kids this way. And I think when you just look at our nation and how it's developed over time, you realize how much more industrialized, how much more processed everything becomes, systematic. There's certainly multiple industries out there driving the food that ends up on our plate. It's all a business, it's all profit. And I think at the end of the day, whether you're looking at the government, whether you're looking at the food that ends up on our plate, the education in our medical system, I don't think the person at the end of it is the goal. I think the money in somebody's pocket is really the driving force. And, that's how I think we've sort of devolved into where we're at and why 90% of our country is unhealthy. And I'll certainly expand on that more, but that's kind of my 10,000-foot view.
Yeah. That's basically it. If you really think about it, like, okay, so now that I'm more, sorry to make this about the Bible, but now that I learned more about the Bible, there's a part where Jesus says, they're asking him, why are your disciples not fasting? When he's like, when I'm around, they don't need to fast. But there's a day where I leave again. When I'm not around, they're gonna have to fast again. And then when you say that companies they're all they're worried about is profits. It feels to me like Jesus, God, or whatever, it's gone from them companies. Their morals are gone. They're not worried about the human. They don't love us. They're more worried about the next quarter profit. They're more worried about the money. To me, I feel like a lot of these, because I believe in fasting. I've been fasting for like 2 years. I do the intermittent fasting.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about that today,
I skip breakfast almost every single day, and I focus on trying to fast from as many of these companies as I can, and I try to eat more whole kind of foods. I do mess up a lot, and I do eat like ice cream and this and that, but I also fast, so I feel like a lot of the times maybe it'll eat a little bit of that. Like I try to catch up on myself and stuff like that. All right, there was another thing that said that we are one of the most sickest countries in the world. And there was a list of 50 countries, and we were the guy said we're one of the most sickest. Then there was a list of the 50 healthiest countries, and we were number 33.
Yeah, I've actually seen that list as well. And I think that is a product of everything I just said, but also our medical system. And really, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's sort of what's been the driving factor for the company, that I want to talk about today. But it's actually the fact that our medical system is really built on fixing you once you're broken, and to some extent keeping you broken. There's no money in our medical system in keeping you healthy. There's no money in keeping you completely healthy from the beginning of your life through every decade, and that's why think about how many, you could probably remember some well checks as a child going to the doctor, and then think of I don't know how old you are. You look like a young, healthy man.
I'm 44.
44. Okay, I'm 40.
Okay.
So think about age 20 to 40. I'm willing to bet you went to the doctor 5 times or less, unless you had some major medical issues. Now, that's not to say that everybody should be going to a doctor to keep themselves healthy, because I don't really believe that Western medicine teaches physicians how to keep people healthy. I believe that we are taught kind of how to keep people sick. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not coming out here, trying to say everything's bad. This is just my experience and what I've noticed in life. And just think about simply how it works. You go to the doctor and they say your blood pressure's high. What's the first thing they say to you? Sure, they say, oh, you better stop smoking and lose weight, right? But nobody really pushes that or teaches you what that means. They hand you a blood pressure pill, and your cholesterol's high, and we hand you a cholesterol pill. Then, all of a sudden you start having a lot of pain, and we're like, geez, looks like you got some autoimmune disease now. Let's give you a shot once a month. Let's give you a couple other pills that are going to take that away. And now all of a sudden you have all these weird things you've done to your body. You're 45, 55, 60. Now you have cancer. Oh, well, now we're going to give you chemotherapy, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars and injects toxins into your body. It's a kind of a really screwed up system. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no place for Western medicine, but I think that it needs to evolve significantly, and that's not going to happen anytime fast. So that's where, a lot of forward-thinking people like our company, me, docs like me, nurse practitioners like me, really come into play now in 2024.
Yeah. So tell me about this business, because I this is enough. I want to know more.
Okay. So this business is called revivehealthplan.com and Revive Health Plan. But what we are is we're a few people. We're actually 2 emergency medicine docs, 1 anesthesiologist, and then my wife, she's a nurse practitioner. She was also kind of trained in that typical Western medicine, and she did emergency medicine for a while. And to be completely honest, like most good things, my wife was probably the driving force behind all of this. She really got into, around the time of COVID, she really started getting down the rabbit holes of different podcasts and starting to ask more questions. Like, it really kind of came up with the COVID vaccine. And, the first question was why? What is this coming from? Why are we taking this? What's the point? And as you start down, those rabbit holes and you start asking questions and learning more information, it spreads to the rest of medicine. And that's what really led us to that understanding of, it really feels like this system's built to keep us sick. So we're not, I'm not trying to pretend like we invented this new genre of medicine, right? We're just some local people who believe in it and we're moving that way. But there's lots of good naturopathic physicians, integrative medicine, functional medicine physicians who think this way. And you'd be surprised if you start looking how many are in our area. And we started a clinic that's kind of built more on the principles of functional medicine. Now, what's been really hot in the news for the last year or so is weight loss and talking about these GLP-1 medications like Wegovy, Ozempic. I'm sure people have heard of this. And so a lot of our practice is really built around that right now. But we're expanding and we're constantly growing and we're really focusing on this functional medicine. And just to give you an example of what someone would come to us for, first and foremost, a lot of people come for the weight loss, but that's when we really start to have that discussion about the metabolic health, which is what you were talking about, that 90% of Americans are not metabolically healthy, right? And we really start to look at things like your age, your weight, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, right? The basics. But then we can kind of take it a step further and start talking about like, what's your inflammatory load? What do some of your genetic markers suggest? How old are you metabolically? Are you 38 metabolically or are you 55 metabolically as a 44-year-old man? And so that's what a company like us does. And, whether it's different lab testing, whether it's discussion about actual dietary modifications and healthy dietary modifications, whether it's, weight loss treatments or peptides, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. What we're trying to do is get you to understand your health and take a more proactive approach. And one more really cool thing, that I'll kind of talk about is, I was mentioning like some of the genes, and what people don't understand is you have the 2 things that determine sort of how your body and your life goes. It's your genetics and, your environment. So you have a genetic code that you're born with. And while you can't necessarily change that, decisions you make in your life can affect your genetic code. And a lot of people don't understand that. And there's a really good book called Dirty Genes out there, Genes, Dirty Genes. And it talks about these genes that we might have in our body. And I'm going to, just real generically, let's just say there's a gene for lung cancer. Let's just throw that out there, and obviously it's way more complicated than that. And let's say you can have variable expression of this gene where maybe you could be genetically born that says you're not going to express that lung cancer gene at all. Maybe somebody else is born with that gene and they're expressing it and they're bound to have lung cancer if they never smoke or, even take care of themselves. Well, that person who's genetically born to not express that gene and probably would never have had lung cancer, now make them a smoker for 25 years. That can actually turn on signaling in your body and turn on that gene, and then that might lead to a lung cancer. And so just broken down, simply, that's an example of how decisions you make can affect your genetic code. And we're in an age where, for about, I think it was about $350, I fully sequenced my genetic code. It took about 16 weeks. I did a saliva sample on the inside of my mouth. I sent it in, and it can tell me, any disease process you can think of, what my risks are, my genetic risks, certain environmental risks that could turn that gene on or off, and even as much as, and I tested it because I got a little bit of a bald spot, but I tested the male pattern baldness and it told me you are 85% likely to be bald. And I was like, well, damn it, So I was like, it's right.
That's right.
So anyway, the point is there's so many things out there that people don't know about. And again, going back to sort of that Western medicine training, I was taught none of this, and I'm not that long out. I've been practicing for about 10 years. I graduated medical school in 2011. And then my residency I was done in 2014. So point being, it's not like I'm on education from the 90s here. And none of this is out there. And I got some more examples, but I don't want to steal the show out.
So a lot of this stuff is a lot like Western medicine is putting a Band-Aid on it, but what you guys are trying to do is go to the core, like what's wrong with it, how do we fix it, and then so like your gut health and stuff like that, right? You guys are going in and trying to fix how people eat. Do you guys worry about how people work out and all that kind of stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, working out, I'll kind of admit I'm less concerned about exactly what people do, because I'm not trying to increase your fast twitch muscle fibers here. I'm not an athletic coach. I can certainly give you tips on the best way to increase your muscle mass and stuff. And I talk to people about things that nobody else does. For example, how important muscle mass is as you age, how important skeletal muscle mass is for a healthy weight, and doctors might not talk to you about that. They might say you need to lose weight, and so what do you think? Okay, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to stop eating. I'm going to lose weight. Well, what you don't consider is that you're losing muscle along with fat. And, that's the worst thing you can do, especially over the age of 50, 60. So we're coming in and we're teaching you, I want you to lose weight, but I want you to lose fat. Here's how you do it. Here's the right way. Here's how you can choose a clean diet, not just a healthy diet. Okay. There's lots of variables out there. But, the other thing you were saying there, I now forget.
The gut health.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that's really important, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of this stuff, because even me, I fast, but I'm still not where I want to be. I still got a bunch of that. The visceral fat?
Visceral fat, absolutely.
It goes around your organs and stuff. That's like the most dangerous fat, right?
That is the dangerous fat. So, let me talk about this for a minute, because this is probably the crux of modern health is your gut, right? And I do think, and maybe you're out of, you're not in the health and wellness field like me. So it'd be interesting for me to hear, what comes across your feed, your phone, do you get as much as I do? Because I get a lot of stuff about gut health, senescent cells, some of the big terms in wellness medicine, but also I say those things and I know my phone hears me, so it probably feeds it to me. But my point of that is I do think gut health awareness is improving, but it's nothing like what it should be. And that's evidenced when I talk to standard family practice physicians and I bring up those things. Like they'll want to put a patient on an antibiotic and I'm like, is that completely necessary? And they're like, well, I'm not worried about antibiotic resistance. And I'm like, that's not really what I'm saying. I'm asking because it's going to destroy their gut bacteria. And they're like, no. You can just tell when someone has no idea what you're saying. And that's a shame, because your gut, I'm making up this number, but it's responsible for 90% of your health. It's so important, the bacteria that live in your gut. And that's also evidenced by, not only there's just thousands of studies that you can look out, but we're talking your mental health, your emotional health, your metabolic health, your physical health. It all comes from your gut. And they have studies out there, let's say, some people who've maybe struggled with mental health, like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, changing their diet completely in 90 days, taking them off certain medications that are messing with some of their neurotransmitters, doing this complete revamp of metabolic health almost eradicates, their disease or their symptoms. And there's some other really interesting studies. There was a Netflix special my wife and I were watching on fecal transplants, where people are doing fecal transplants and taking a person who might be considered metabolically healthy, maybe not suffering from, mental illness, cardiovascular illness, taking their tested, stool samples and doing fecal transplants, or some people even encapsulate it and take poop pills, essentially. But it's amazing because it changes your entire metabolic health, which then changes your gene expression, after some time, and, your mental capacity, your mental, spiritual health. So the point of that is everything resides in the gut. And to further that, almost everything in the typical American diet is feeding bad things in your gut. So.
Yeah, because the processed food is, in my opinion, processed food is killing us slowly. It's making us one of the most sickest countries in the world, because we're not eating single ingredient food like a steak or a piece of fish or chicken or rice. No, we're eating these boxed up food with 85 ingredients, all these dyes, all these things, all these poison, and then there's I listen listen to this one guy. He has like a something like you. He says SOS, which is salt, oils, and sugars, are killing us. The ingredients they're putting into these processed foods is what's killing us, because those three things, they're putting it into all the foods, right, to make it more addicting, so it can trigger your dopamine, so you can want that Pop-Tart every morning, so you can want that Kellogg's every morning, so you can want that whatever, a million things, what are the little pizza rolls?
Tortitos, pizza rolls. Oh my God,
all those things are so good, but they trigger something in our brain to keep wanting that. And then a piece of steak or a piece of chicken, it doesn't have all that in it. So sometimes we're like, that's not hitting the triggers. But you can make yourself keep wanting that, but you got to kind of trick your body into force feeding yourself that kind of stuff, and then eventually you'll get more used to it.
Why
and stuff
is that?
Like that.
Because your gut bacteria. So everything you said is 100% accurate. And ultra processed foods and processed foods are killing us. And if you let me, I'll talk about this in a minute. But salt, oil, sugar, absolutely. I haven't heard that SOS thing, but that's a great way to remember it. But what you said at the end is what really resonates with me, in that if you keep doing it, you said trick your body into it. It's not even tricking your body into it. What happens is, what the fuel you feed your body, is the performance your body gives you. So when you're feeding your body all that crap, right, you're going to get crappy gut bacteria. You're probably going to feel like crap. You're going to be gaining weight. You're going to be tired. Your sex drive might go down. Your mental health might not be great over time. And it takes it really only takes about 90 days to truly change your gut bacteria. And so that's why a lot of times after people hit about 3 months on a diet where they are eating healthy, eating clean, they start to say like, I don't even crave that anymore. But there's science behind it. It's not tricking your body. It's turning over your gut bacteria.
Okay.
You feed good foods, you grow good bacteria, and then that's what your body desires.
So that's kind of how I when I started fasting, I changed my whole life. I was 300 and something pounds. I started intermittent fasting just because I went on TikTok. I was 300. I put glasses on because I didn't even know if this was going to work for the next day. And I went on TikTok and I said, hey guys, tomorrow I'm starting to fast and I'm going to make a video every day and eventually I'm going to start working out. So I did the fasting for like 3 months. I lost like 30 pounds. And then something like I started getting a clear mind, a clear gut. I started so much. I cleaned myself out so much because at first I was doing one meal a day. I was doing this warrior fast where I would just eat one meal a day and then go like 20 something hours and then just one meal a day. And my stomach cleared out. I was using the bathroom. And my mind cleared out. I felt like every morning I felt like I was like a warrior and I was out hunting and I needed to become somebody. And then all of a sudden I started working out at the gym. I started filming myself every day. I eventually said, I kept making my TikToks. Eventually I said, man, I want to start a podcast. I want to start this. I want to start that. Just my whole life changed. I had so much clarity. My business grew. Everything. I'm pretty sure it's because I started cleaning out my gut. Because I believe that if our gut is full of shit, our brain is full of shit.
I 100% agree with that. And science backs that up. I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying to you today. And you're right. You're right. And that's really cool, talking about intermittent fasting, because that is something
do you guys put some of the people on that kind of stuff?
I do. So the way our program works, if you come to us for the weight loss side of it, we're not like the total handhold. I'm not going to be saying, send me your calorie track every day. Send me your macros and micros, but I'm going to give you a ton of information. I'm going to talk with you. Our first visit lasts about an hour and I'm going to start to teach you, some of the things we're talking about today. And then I'm going to put it on you to say, if you're interested in this and you really want to make some lifestyle changes, here's some resources and some places to start. But intermittent fasting is something I always suggest because people will ask me, Dr. Scott, what's the best diet? I've heard it's keto. I've heard it's Mediterranean, pescatarian. Any literature you look at says the best diet is a diet you can stick to. And I mean, within reason, right? If you tell me I could stick to 3 Taco Bell tacos and 2 McLights every day, that might not be the best diet. But within reason. But intermittent fasting is what I usually come up and I say there's one caveat. And I suggest to everybody, if you haven't ever tried it, consider intermittent fasting, not just for weight loss. It is great for weight loss, but for the metabolic effects. So the theory behind intermittent fasting is that the time you're not eating each day. So let's say you went on the Warrior one, and that's really hard to do.
I don't do that anymore, but that's when I started. Now I do the 8-16.
Right. And so I was going to say a very common one is where you consume food for about 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then from 6 p.m. until the next day at 10 a.m., you don't eat anything.
Yep.
And the theory behind that is as, your last meal makes it through your digestive system and your gut starts to clear out or it's done digesting, it then gets bored. Like it doesn't just rest. It's like, now what can I do? And if you're not fasting or if you're in this, eating throughout the day, every day, snack before you go to bed, your gut never really stops digesting. Well, now you get it to this point where it has downtime, and the thought process is it can start to recycle products. It can start to clean out the other things that it didn't do before. And as people look at this, they start to say, okay, well, is this going to be good for long-term vascular health? Does this reduce, dementia, coronary artery disease, strokes? And, there is some research that shows benefit that way. And I'm not the kind of physician that's ever absolute, even if I read research and I see papers, it doesn't ever make me say 100% this is the way. But there are different things out there that sort of make me think, okay, this is one thing that's important. And, this one, I'm going to share a concept today that I haven't launched, to the public yet, that everybody talks about different things like the fountain of youth, and somebody might say metformin, which is a medication that can control your blood sugar, right? Somebody might say metformin's the fountain of youth. Somebody else might tell you, oh, I do some growth hormone injections or testosterone replacement. Having that is the fountain of youth. Well, I've kind of been putting together this theory where I'm looking at some of the most popular concepts and things talk about. And I think, the fountain of youth might be, a mix of 7 to 10 different things that you could really focus on. Now, is that going to stop or completely reverse aging? No, I'm not suggesting that. But there's definitely things you can do to slow your metabolic age, to repair damaged cells, damaged DNA, and to, turn off some of those dirty genes or turn on some of the protective genes or things you can do to reduce maybe vascular disease that you have, or maybe you've started down the line of some dementia if it runs in your family and you don't even realize it. There's things you can do. So anyway, my point is I'm kind of putting together this program that eventually I want to launch one day that cycles people through, 3 months you might be focusing on this sort of fountain of youth. Then we drop that. In 3 months we focus on this fountain of youth. And it's really going to be something. And people could pick and choose. You don't ever have to 100% listen to me. And you can do your own research. But I've got some cool ideas with that. I'm glad you touched on intermittent fasting because I think that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. So I always tell people that's the key to to me, that's the fountain of youth fountain of youth to me, because that's what I use to be more healthy. But I also believe, because I've listened to a lot, I believe the keto diet is really good. It's really good with people that have dementia. They're doing studies right now that there's certain people that had dementia that are actually getting their brain, their thoughts back, going fully keto. But I don't, I'm not a doctor, but I've heard this, and I've heard doctors talking about this stuff on podcasts. One thing I wanted to ask you about: do you guys do a gene test for how they do the swab test? And then because I've heard Gary Brecka talking about the gene test and how he can clear up different things like you said, like mental health, and because sometimes we're just missing one little thing that we need to implement into our lives, how there's certain things that we all need.
Maybe choline. Maybe you're missing a B vitamin, right? Maybe there's something like that. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah. Did you guys do that?
So the way we work right now, so we're going to kind of get to this later, but one of the unique aspects of my practice is we're purely telemedicine. And I'm going to talk about telemedicine a little bit, but let me just kind of focus on this. So everybody we see is through video chat right now. And then after initial calls, we'll do phone calls, we'll do texts and stuff. We try to be modern medicin, but focusing on
there's no actual building right now?
Not yet.
Okay.
In the future, there will be.
Okay.
But the point of this is we do have partnerships, and we also have done the research, and we can refer you to places to get that. So I don't necessarily have a genetic test, but I would say to you, and I'm also glad you brought this up, because I do like Gary Brecka. I've listened to Gary Brecka and his series on, I think it's called the Perfect Human or something human.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
but
the ultimate human.
Ultimate human, yeah, it's really cool. But his gene test, and you know, I'm not a hater. Everybody's trying to do their business and make money. He charges you $600,
$600,
and it's a single MTHFR mutation gene test. I mean, it's the most basic of gene tests. I think there's people out there that do it for $100 or less, right? And he's just got this audience, and these people, they don't know, and they pay it, and good for him. That's his business, and it is important. I'm not going to say it's not, but there's, you know, a cheat code to that, and that's where you met me. Is what I was telling Jennifer is if you don't want to pay $600 or even $200 for that test, just pretend you have this mutation. You know, the MTHFR mutation is in about 40% of Americans, right? So just assume you got it. Take methylated vitamins, you know, and that pretty much overcomes all the problems of that.
Yeah.
You know, not all of them, but a lot of the problems of that mutation. So, and there's tricks out there and there's hacks, and that's things, you know, that we'll tell our clients like, hey, I can get you this gene test if you want, but also if you'd like, I can just show you some methylated vitamins, and that will probably be good enough.
Can you tell me a little bit about that methylated vitamins? Like, cause I've actually went and bought some, but like explain to me what's the difference between a regular vitamin that I can just buy at, you know, Kroger's or the methylated vitamin?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just that you can't buy it, it's just that you have to know which one to buy.
Okay,
you know,
so some of them are at Kroger's methylated?
Absolutely. I'm not sure if Kroger sells one. They probably do, but you know, Amazon or any vitamin store is going to sell them. You just have to know what to look for. Generally, they'll be a little bit more expensive, but not anything crazy. We use for our clients full scripts. We have a full scripts account. We can send them a lot of things through full scripts, and there's a brand called Codage that we like. They have a ton of things for, you know, methylated vitamins, gut health, all kinds of things. But the point of that is for a good monthly men's vitamin with methylation, with, you know, all kinds of different things that can help, you know, even with men kind of things. And I'm getting towards like sexual drive, reversing some of the aging things. I mean, it's the best monthly vitamin I've ever seen. It's like $35 for a month. So my point is, you don't have to go out and spend $100. I think even Gary Brecka's might be like $40 a month, right? That's a little bit high in my opinion. Point being, you just have to know what you're looking for. And like you were asking, the difference is, you know, people who have this MTHFR mutation aren't able to absorb or use the vitamin, the B vitamin in the right way. And so you're essentially not doing anything. And in some cases, you can actually do harm by not taking a methylated vitamin. And an example of this is actually pertinent to the medical world. So I had never heard of the MTHFR mutation that I can remember through med school. Never talked about it. My ex-wife is an OBGYN. Through her pregnancy and through her training, I never heard her mention that once. Well, let's say you're a woman and you have this MTHFR mutation that, mind you, I'm not sure any OB in the country routinely tests you for. It's your first pregnancy, you have this MTHFR mutation, you have no way of knowing that. They tell you go out and take your prenatal vitamins, right? Well, you're taking normal, non-methylated prenatal vitamins. What can actually happen is these non-methylated vitamins can actually block all these like folate receptors, and actually you think you're taking a prenatal vitamin with folates to protect your baby and make sure their neural system develops correctly. You can actually do more harm because this non-methylated prenatal vitamins actually making the folate go out of your system and further reducing your levels. Wow. This is proven. This is science. This isn't just me estimating that. And nobody talks about it. In the whole world of obstetrics and gynecology, like, why did maybe 5% of them talk about this? This is huge. And you don't even have to test them. Just say, hey, buy a methylated prenatal vitamin. Done. End of story.
Wow. And that's scary, man, because like I see so much like autism autism, like little kids born with like autism and stuff. That sometimes I think, so I don't know if this is true. This is 100. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything, but sometimes I'm thinking like, man, I wonder if the mom was eating like good nutrients food.
I think about that all the time.
Was the mom like 100% on her game when she was pregnant?
Well, and think about how this applies to people of lower socioeconomic status and how terrible this is, because as we've said, we have this country that just wants to see us sick. So the cheapest foods are the worst foods, the ultra processed foods. And I'm not putting anybody down. If you don't have money and you need to feed your family, you're going to buy what you can afford. Yeah. And I mean, that sucks. That sucks that that's what our system is. And
yeah, because a lot of the food, the healthy food is so expensive. And at McDonald's, for like $2, you can get a burger and a meal and all that. And then, okay, so so I wrote some things there. It says the role that diet has in our gut health. Like, tell me, can you talk a little bit about that?
We touched on that earlier, and let's take it out, to the big view. And I mean, you mentioned, the P word, the processed foods. Mm-hmm. Obviously, like you said, one ingredient, eating fresh. Shopping the perimeter of the store, staying away from aisles. Yeah, and that's first and foremost. Okay.
Say that a little better so people can know.
Absolutely. So shopping the perimeter,
like around the grocery
edges,
store,
right? That's what are you going to find there?
Yep, the milk, the meat, the vegetables, the fruits.
Exactly.
And you're going to stay away from the preservatives in the middle,
which are all down the ails, right? Yep. Boxes on shelves, cans, that kind of stuff. Staying away from that is first and foremost. I love that, man. That's awesome. Now, the second thing is, if you want to take that a step further, we definitely encourage people to try to shop organic, because another thing that doesn't get talked about enough is pesticides. Yeah. And I mean, they're in everything you eat. Even if you buy organic stuff, we still wash all our fruits, all our vegetables. We try to eat as organic as we can. You have to think about that. I mean, you have to think about the damage these things do. They're made to literally kill insects. And, we have not the same genetic structure, but we're a living being. Yeah. So there is definitely a toll of ingesting that stuff in our body. So even if you're not going to buy organic, make sure you research thoroughly washing your fruits and vegetables. Make sure you do that all the time. So that's step one. Fresh, the perimeter of the store, like you said, single ingredient foods as much as you can. Organic if you can. If not, wash everything that's grown. Now, the other thing to think about is, we talked about the processed and ultra processed foods, but along with that comes some of the terrible ingredients. So obviously none of us, myself included, aren't going to ever eat a processed food. So if I do, I'm at least trying to get the best, one that I can. So we have a rule in our house, nothing with high fructose corn syrup. I mean, why should we have something that's concentrated sugar going in our body for anything? And you'd be surprised what it hides in. I talk to people every day who don't realize that you can find it in a jar of salsa. You find it in your ketchup, your spaghetti sauce. I mean, there's in your pickle relish has high fructose corn syrup. So you got to actively pick up a label and look for ones that don't have that. And a lot of times it's your Simple Truth brands. It's not necessarily the ones you're used to, because those, they know how to sell. They put sugar in it. It tastes delicious. They want you to buy it. Barbecue sauce, these kinds of things are horrible. Yeah. But as time has gone on, the options out there have greatly improved. So you really can, get those options now, where before you couldn't. You'd have to go to a specialty store. But Kroger, Meijer, all the stores have them. You just got to know to look.
You got to look for it.
And that's in your SOS too, so sugar.
Yes.
And why do we talk about sugar like that, right? Why is that so important? Sugar is one of the most inflammatory things to the cells in your body that you can consume. And this is why, why is there so much education and discussion around diabetes, which is a disorder of not being able to control that blood sugar, right? And why are diabetics at so much risk for vascular disease, heart disease, your eyes go out, your sexual function? I mean, if you don't keep that sugar down, you're exposing your body to that inflammation all these years, your body starts to fail. So sugar is huge. I mean, keeping that out of your body, out of your gut. And I mean, think about, there's so many people I talk to, I ask them, every day they come in with a Starbucks drink this big. It's got whipped cream, chocolate syrup on top. And forget the 58 grams of fat. Forget the, 400 calories. You're talking 60, 70, 80 grams of sugar on that.
Which is like this much sugar.
Oh my
gosh. If you pour it out,
so
it's like a cup.
If you go to revivehealthplan.com, we don't try to sell anything on our social media. My wife makes all content and lifestyle videos. Okay. And she did one of these where she took the amount of sugar in, I think it was a bottle of Coca-Cola, and she just put it in dry sugar in a bottle of Coca-Cola. Yeah. And I mean, it filled it up to it was ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Like that, and people will drink that every day. I have people who tell me they drink a 12-pack of Mountain Dew every day.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're doing to your body?
Oh my God.
And so listen, it's one thing if you want to make that decision and you're informed, but I just feel people are not informed, and they haven't been given the right tools. And
absolutely,
it's a free country, man. Do what you want, but at least you should know what you're doing.
Yeah, and then the worst thing to do is drink sugar, because our body, there's nothing in nature that actually is the double of drinking that much sugar. So when you eat an orange, you eat it, it's in fiber, the sugar, you get it, but it breaks down in our gut and it feeds you little by little. When you eat an apple, the fiber, it breaks down and it's eating, but you're never 38 grams of sugar. There's not
just down the hatch.
Even a watermelon, you gotta break it down and eat it. Nothing. So we're supposed to be trying to eat things like kind of like around our nature. But when we're drinking a soda and just downing it like that, our body's going like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? It's so much sugar to drink at one time. And people don't understand that even a shake, when you break down a fruit and you make it and you blend it into a drink, that still is worse than eating an apple. Making a banana shake is worse than eating a banana, because when you're eating the banana, it breaks down little by little in your system. But when you're eating that banana shake, it's just like, you're getting all that at once.
Exactly. And that's to be honest, that's why I'm not a huge fan of juicing, because juicing takes all the fiber out, and it's just kind of giving you that sugar. I do think there's some benefits, and, people might talk to me, and that's a different topic, but you're exactly right. The way things come in nature are the way we're supposed to consume them. And we have just done so much to modify that it's sick. I mean, the food we consume is nothing like what our body was made to consume. And another one, so you mentioned sugar, and then go to the oils. So that's another thing, in our house is we do not buy anything with vegetable oil, canola oil, any of that.
Soybean oil.
None of it. Palm oil.
Yeah.
So interesting. And again,
all
my
this
wife,
stuff's horrible, right?
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And my wife was the one that kind of taught me about this. I didn't even realize, palm oil, it's used in the manufacturing of a lot of products. And companies started coming up saying we have hundreds of millions of gallons of oil. What are we going to do with all this? And they had ways that they waste it and put it back in the earth. Well, then they got this bright idea to start putting it in our food, as a way to get rid of it. It's not even needed to make the food. There's zero nutritional value. You're talking about manufacturers disposing of it through our body because it's cheaper and there's no other way to do it. And just go to the store. Next time you look at every bag of chips, and every single one of them is going to say palm oil, vegetable oil, etc. And that's when you got to start to learn the clean brands. I'm not going to go my entire life without eating a tortilla chip,
Of course.
But there's brands that are good out there that might just use avocado oil or, don't use the other ones. Yeah. And those aren't great either. If I could avoid it for the most part, I do. Yeah. But the two oils we allow in our house are olive oil and avocado oil.
Olive oil and avocado oil. Yeah. And I heard coconut oil is okay.
Yeah, coconut oil is good. I have kind of a sensitivity to coconut, so we don't do that. But coconut oil is not bad either.
Okay, so the thing with oil that I've, listened to podcasts, all of these oils used to be manufactured oils, all of them, all these vegetable oils. But at one point everything was made with olive oil and avocado oil. And then these companies were like, man, we need to find a cheaper way. This stuff's expensive. So they figured out, if we clean this mechanical oil, refine it really clean, make sure it's really clean, we can put it into all of it. And that's how they got the canola oil, the corn oil. And if you really think about it, corn doesn't have have oil. Vegetables don't have oil.
No.
So what are they? They're just making this stuff.
It is, yeah. And I mean, and then you're putting it in your body, and think of the metabolic effects, the gut, what that's doing to your bacteria. I mean, all the things we've talked about. And you're right, oils, they're these like rancid, putrid things that just aren't really meant to be in your body. Very, very limited use for some of the good oils like olive oil, from some of the fatty acids and stuff. But, my argument is then just eat an avocado.
They said that it's little by little, it's coating our cells and it's killing us because all that oil is going in every time we eat ketchup, every sauce made in every single store, every sauce at every little Frickers and this and that, it's all made with that oil.
It is.
And little by little,
awful.
it's coating and it's creating like a mucus inside of our body. And if we don't get that stuff out and clean our body, that stuff starts creating zombie cells. Those zombie cells is what they die out. Those are what clumps up and gives us cancer, baldness, blindness, and all these bad sicknesses.
Exactly, and you're kind of bringing it all together because I mentioned the different fountains of youth, and I mentioned senescent cells or zombie cells. That's one of them, and clearing those. Well, what's another way we've already talked about today that you can clear that? Intermittent fasting, right? Give your gut some time to clear out those senescent and zombie cells. Why do you think we're seeing reduced dementia and cardiovascular risk with intermittent fasting? Because it's giving you time to clear that crap out of your body. So you kind of bring that full circle. That's
a lot of people tell me, man, I swear, like a lot of people say, hey, Yogi, man, you look good. Man, you look younger. Like, I swear, like, a couple years ago when I was unhealthy, I looked older. My face looked older. I was really bad, out of shape. I looked like but now since I've been doing my fasting, my working out, my trying to eat healthier, I'm not 100% with eating healthier, but I still eat like so much more healthier than I was before. And people look at me and say, to me, it's like, I know that when I'm fasting, I'm cleaning out a lot of things. And then every once in a while, I do a 36-hour fast. I've never went crazy and did the 72 yet.
The 72-hour water fast.
I haven't did that yet. The longest I did was 44 hours. That was a couple weeks ago. I just did a 44. I skipped like a whole day and a half. But it felt good, man. And I get more energy. A lot of people think they get groggy and tired, but that's just because we're addicted to these foods. We're addicted to sugar, salt, oils, and anytime that we go a couple hours without it, we feel groggy and tired. But really, if we can break through that little, it's just like being addicted to drugs, to alcohol, to cigarettes.
The exact same neurotransmitter response.
We're just hooked on these junk food. We're hooked on these bad foods. And if we can fast a little bit from these foods, we can break through that little couple, the little cycle, and we can become better. Okay, so sorry. Talk a little bit about
exactly what we're talking about. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the sauce. So we were doing the and then ass sauce.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. The last one we were talking about was what? We did what?
We did salts or sugar. We did oils.
Okay.
So let's do a little bit. Is our salt? You said salts.
Yeah.
Because salts are good and bad, right?
Yeah. So I mean,
it's the hidden salts, I think.
Yeah. So basically, when it comes to that, I mean, I don't talk about that a whole lot because also I don't personally, season stuff a whole lot like that. So I do tell people, like, there's already, especially if you're eating processed, there's already so much salt in food that there's really no reason for you to ever add it on. And everybody is getting more than they should every day. Now, if you are eating, if you're doing a very good job of eating clean, of eating simple, fresh, not processed foods, one ingredient foods, then you actually do have some room, to add salt in your diet, and salt is not harmful in that extent. For those people, it's okay, to use a little bit of salt. Your body needs salt. It's one of the main, neurotransmitters across cell membranes. So it's important, just like potassium. The problem is just with the American diet, there's so much salt in everything we do. And then, you get that cheeseburger and fries. And I mean, I can't even, you grab salt and put it on the already salted fries and stuff, and it's like, oh,
and then refined salt is worse than like the Himalayan pink salt, right?
Right.
So you want to get like a better salt.
Right, exactly. Because again, it's just like less ingredients, right? When you get into the refined salts, you're talking like sodium chloride and, other additives. And just when you get to your natural salt state, your simple salt on a food. It's an ingredient, it's an element, that's better for your body.
And our body needs salt because it's like a mineral, right? Salt is a mineral that our body needs. There's certain minerals that our bodies needs every single day, right?
Exactly.
To function.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely one of them, and that's just why it's so important when you start to think like, okay, I'm getting off of this processed stuff and I'm going to go to this more natural diet. And then you can start to add in certain things like that your body does need. And we talk about that a lot on people when they're doing weight loss, because you start to eat a little bit less, especially if you're on the GLP-1 medications, but you'll eat a little bit less, and we're like, hey, you got to make sure you're getting these nutrients. We got to get your protein, we got to get your minerals. We'll definitely tell people about a daily vitamin. That stuff's definitely important.
Yeah. Man, this is the conversations I wanted to have when I had Big Yogi's Garage, because this is really what I wanted to talk about. I wanted health, fitness, motivational. I wanted to have doctors on. I wanted this so bad. It's just that I never had the people to actually talk, because I know a lot about this stuff. I've listened to sometimes 8 to 12 hours of just health and fitness. So I know a lot of this stuff you're telling me is just like, it's just coming back to me like, but then ever since I've been learning more about God, I've been kind of like staying away from health and fitness and focusing more about Bible and in spirit. But a lot it goes hand in hand, dude.
That's what I say. Exactly.
Like the Bible actually talks about a lot of this stuff, and it all kind of like goes, like it kind of like it's a puzzle, and it's almost like God sent me to put all this together. And I appreciate you so much for coming on, because a lot of people didn't give me the chance to actually sit down and talk to me. And some people would even say, hey, man, you got to pay me to talk about that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, I really appreciate you for talking to me about this. I want to take a little break real quick because I can use the bathroom, and then we're going to kind of like just go over where we're at and what we got to still talk about, and then we're going to keep going, okay?
Awesome. I love talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we're back. So I wanted to, so we're talking about health, fitness. We're talking about your clinic, okay?
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, GLP-1?
Yeah. Yeah,
Tell me a little bit. It's like Ozempic, Moderna.
Yeah. These are really cool meds. But, I was thinking about something when we took a break that I wanted to say before I forget.
Okay.
In making these dietary and lifestyle changes that we've talked about today, if I could leave, parting advice to anybody, it doesn't happen overnight. This is years of education from my wife and her forcing me along, with her. Like, I didn't listen to her about dyes at first. I didn't listen to her about sugar and oils. Like, it took time. I had to do my own research, and we eliminated some things from our pantry, and then a year later, some more, and then some things slip in. It's just a process. And if I can encourage anybody, don't think you need to empty all your cupboards out overnight, throw all your food in the garbage and start fresh. But it's like, start somewhere. Find a podcast you like. Maybe start looking at labels. Look for things without high fructose corn syrup. Look for the least amount of ingredients. If you can't pronounce an ingredient, put it back and find something different. It's probably not good. So I just wanted to stress to people, I don't want them to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Make some subtle changes, and you'd be surprised where you're at in a year, 2 years, and 3 years.
That's awesome. I completely agree with it. When I recommend people to fast, I say, hey man, just like fast for 8 hours, then like go 2 weeks and then fast for 10 hours and then eventually get to 12 hours or whatever, I'll say split your day in half, 12 hours fasting, 12 hours your eating window. And I try to tell people to go slow, but that's a great recommendation. It's like clean out one cupboard and then just like get all the bad food out of there, or just like your freezer, stop buying like the bad ice creams, you know what I mean? Just little by little try to do that. So what I was going to say is I don't believe in any of those, because I believe into hard work, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, going to the gym, fasting, working out, all that. I don't believe in this taking a little shot and then all of a sudden you're gonna. But tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about what is the mindset of people. Why do we need this medicine in America? And tell me a little bit about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, first let me say that I agree with you. I don't think there's any substitution for hard work, mental toughness. I mean, that is 100% reality. But the other reality is that's really hard to do, and it might not be for everybody. And I think the really cool thing about these GLP-1 medications, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound, is they're the first drug of their kind that reduce what we call food noise. So when you take these medications, it takes away that little voice in your brain that's like, eat this candy bar, eat another helping of mashed potatoes. You're just content. You're content with a half of a steak and some carrots, and you're like, I'm full and I don't even want any more food. And what that allows a lot of people to do, a lot of my clients that come to me for weight loss have battled weight their entire lives. And it usually comes down to overeating, snacking, not being able to resist those urges. And nobody's perfect, and I'm sure as hell not here to judge anybody. Yeah. So if you just maybe don't have, you're straight up say, I don't have the willpower to do that. I've tried to diet my whole life. I don't have the willpower. Yeah. These medicines are like willpower. And I find that to be cool. Now, and the cool thing about it is we've had medicines before, if you've ever heard of Adipex, right? Adipex is a common medicine people use for weight loss, and it's basically just a stimulant. There is no metabolic effect other than it basically reduces your hunger and maybe increases your metabolism just a bit. So you purely lose weight because you're not eating and you're not hungry. GLP-1 medications, there's GLP-1 receptors everywhere in your body, head to toe, and these medications act everywhere. All the organs we talked about earlier, your pancreas responsible for production of insulin. These medicines increase your cells' sensitivity to insulin. They're reducing the sugar that's being exposed to cells in your body. We talked about how inflammatory and bad sugar is, right? So even the sugar you do eat, it's sort of shielding your body, kind of keeping it away, disposing of it. In your liver, it's telling your liver to process energy and calories different. Maybe let's not store it as fat. Let's use it as energy right now. There's receptors in your brain. GLP-1 medications are being tested right now for addiction medicine, ADHD. There's people, they were getting respondents in this initial studies, and even more so now, that were like, interestingly, I lost 40 pounds and I quit smoking and gambling out of the blue. And then so they start to look into this. That's because of the GLP-1 receptors in your brain, right? So my point of this, and I have deep conversations with people because I want them to understand what they're putting in their body. If you come to me for a GLP-1, I'm going to talk to you about it. But the point is, these medications have very cool metabolic effects that studies are showing reducing your risk for heart attack, stroke, dementia, some other things like that, all just because of the metabolic effects. Okay. So they really are a cool class of medications. And where we come in at this clinic is, let's say you go to your doctor right now and you want to be prescribed Wegovy or Ozempic or Mounjaro. These are the name brands. Well, you pretty much have to be a type 2 diabetic, or you have to have whatever kind of certain insurance will approve it for weight loss. More and more people are getting rejected for weight loss. And as of the first of the year, it's going to happen even more because insurance companies are changing their coverage for weight loss medicine because they don't want to pay for these meds. So clinics like me exist because we can call compounding pharmacies. We have partnerships. These pharmacies, all in the United States of America, they're FDA regulated, so you're getting the ingredients, the concentration, it's sterile, there's no additives, everything you would expect from an American pharmacy, it's just the generic medicine. So if your insurance wouldn't cover you to get Mounjaro, you're going to pay $1,300 a month at the pharmacy, or you're going to pay $300 a month through me. So what we do is we take these really good medications and we make them accessible to many more people. I understand that's a lot of money. Not everybody has that kind of money. If you do semaglutide, which is like Ozempic and Wegovy, it's a little bit cheaper, like $200 a month. Point being, though, how many people do you know could afford $1,400 a month versus how many people could afford $200 a month? Course. And if that's what you want to invest in, your metabolic health, your body, you want to reduce that food noise, then we're here and we're available. Yeah. And that's what I say about GLP-1s. And I have no problem saying I'd try, almost every medicine I prescribe. And when I did tirzepatide, which is generic for Mounjaro and Zepbound, I lost 20 pounds. I was not even trying. And I probably lost a little bit of muscle mass because I didn't know a ton about the medicines at the time, because that's one of the downsides is you can lose muscle mass. But you have to have a physician or a group of docs like our group that cares and teaches you from the beginning, hey, protein is important. Exercise is important. We're going to preserve that muscle and we're going to burn that fat, and you're going to get all the good effects from these meds, none of the bad ones. So point being, I lost 20 pounds. I still do approximately 3 to 4 shots a month of what I call like microdosing, where I'm basically Does it reduce food noise and cravings? Just a little bit, just takes the edge off. Maybe lets me not eat that brownie at work, that I would have ate in the past. But I'm really going for the long-term metabolic effects, the effects on my heart, those visceral organs, burning visceral fat. So that's why I actually like these medications and why I...
So there is a lot of good benefits. Is there any is there any side effects from this?
Absolutely. And, any drug, any prescription medicine you do. Now, what's cool about these medications is they're a peptide. And this is another thing our clinic does is peptides. But a peptide is a protein sequence in your body that usually signals like another process. So like how we were talking about, it's signaling metabolism in multiple different organs, right? This is a mimic of a natural thing in your body, right? So they're called GLP-1 analogs, right? Meaning similar to GLP-1, which is something your body produces. So it goes in, and what they did is they made them a little bit more potent than your body's version, and it lasts a little bit longer. So that's why you can do like one injection a week and why you get these effects for a week. Whereas you, right now, Yogi, when you eat dinner, you get the effect of GLP-1 just for a very short amount of time, and it's broken down very quickly. So the cool thing about these medicines is, one of the first commercially available peptides was insulin. Where would our world be without insulin, right? People, type 1 diabetics who can't produce insulin would die at extremely young ages. And it's a peptide. It's just mimicking something your body does. It's putting it in there. So these are not really traditional pharmaceuticals in that it's a completely developed substrate. Like it's actually mimicking a natural process. We just found a way to do it better. And that's another reason I find these really cool. And there's lots of other peptides out there. And our clinic also does different ones. If you've ever heard of like a semarelin, or they're called growth hormone releasing hormones. So this ties back to our other fountain of youth discussion. So one of the other fountain of youth, and this is for sure, is growth hormone. So human growth hormone is, at its highest concentrations in your body from around age 18 to, 24. In your late 20s, it starts to dip a little, but over the age of 30 is when you start to get a pretty steady decline for the rest of your life every year. There's peptides that they make that stimulate your body to produce more growth hormone and release more growth hormone. You're not putting anything in. You're not taking exogenous testosterone. You're not doing a shot of growth hormone. That goes through the liver, right? And your body can't control that. It has to process and use it. These peptides go through your body's own signaling pathways, and they're like, hey, pituitary gland, do you remember when we were 18 years old and we used to make a ton of growth hormone? And your pituitary gland's like, yeah. It's like, let's do that again. And it's like, all right, let's make it. But your body will still have all of its normal feedback loops. So it's never going to make more than it can use. And you're never going to get dangerous side effects because your body is not going to produce it to a dangerous level. So the same thing with the GLP-1s. Are there side effects? Yeah. And some common ones that people talk about are nausea and some constipation.
Oh, but that's not bad.
It's not. And again, side effects are mitigated by a couple things. Responsible dosing. So I find most of the time, people who get sick, or you hear about the bad stories, like they went to the ER, they had a bowel obstruction. I think a lot of that has to do with people prescribing it that don't know what they're doing and maybe start people at too high of a dose or escalate the dose too quickly because they want people to get results fast. I want to be that person that lost 100 pounds in 60 days, right? That's not healthy. And so you have to have responsible providers who understand these meds. And I'm not saying we're the only one, but we certainly are those people.
Or even people at home are probably taking 2 shots instead of 1.
Yeah, there is errors that get made. Or you're right. People like,
because they want to get skinnier faster.
Yes.
Because they see everybody else losing weight.
But
I'm not blaming them. But you never know.
It happens.
Sometimes that might be the reason they're getting the side effects.
It does. And when you're doing it responsibly, and again, your diet is also big. If you're eating fresh, if you're avoiding fried food, fatty food, greasy food, and you're hydrating, side effects are minimal. So that nausea, that constipation, whenever one of my patients tells me I'm constipated, the first thing I say is, how much water did you drink yesterday? Well, probably not enough, and I'm like, all right, let's hydrate. And that goes, same thing with nausea.
Or do you ask him, like, what did you eat in the last couple?
I do. We'll go through all of that.
I ate 3 pizzas. You're like, oh,
and
come
I'm
on.
Like, you're going to feel like crap, man. You got to get that out of your body, And so that's big. And I think that's important. And it's good to have a coach like that, and that's where a clinic like us comes in. And if I could say, the last thing about the clinic that, people tell us is, we're all telemedicine. And so for some people, that's not what they're looking for. And there are other companies out there, they probably cost more money than us, but you can go in every week and you can get your injection and you can talk to somebody. And if you need that, that's cool for you. But there's a lot of people like me, they still want the education. They still want the care from a physician. But let me ask you this. Think of your last doctor's appointment that you went to, right? And I'm going to throw a hypothetical out there. It was probably let's say it was at 1 p.m. I bet you left your house at noon, maybe 12:15. You drove through traffic, you got to the waiting room, you filled out the form, you sat there, you waited for them to call you back, you got in the room, you waited for the doctor to come, and God forbid it's something where they eventually come in and say, well, the doctor got called into an emergency surgery, so we're going to have to reschedule you. And you're like, after all this, you know? That's where I like telemedicine, and that's why we chose to do this, because if you have an appointment with me at 1 o'clock, you're going to click your button at 1 o'clock, and my face is going to be there at 1 o'clock. And we're going to talk for 10, 20, however many minutes, and you're going to be at your house or your work or in the park, and you're going to go about your day. And I think that's the future. I think a lot of Western medicine is still catered to this God complex with physicians, and everything has to be this certain regal way, right? It doesn't have to be that. Like, I can have the same conversation with you over a video. And I'm an ER doctor too, right? So there's some things that certainly could never happen over telemedicine, right? But certain things can. And, talking about changing your lifestyle, your metabolic health, if people come to me and do GLP-1s, I have an after visit summary, and there's a link to a video. It shows you how to do an injection. I have links to education about GLP-1. I mean, you can get good medical care over telemedicine, and we're trying to be the leader in that and show people like, hey, you can do this. This can supplement the gaps in Western medicines.
I think it's a great idea. I think that's the future because, like you said, a lot of times I don't have time to be going anywhere. And because I got a business, a lot of people are working, a lot of people are doing a lot of things. They don't have all this time for 3 hours to go here, drive there an hour, waiting another day, fill out this paper. If I could just click a button and I talk to you at 1 p.m., I think that's amazing. I think that's a great thing. I think that's the future because, like, if you really, like, okay, how real estate is like your apartment, my house, my apartment, all these apartments are really high, but these offices downtown, they're empty. There's offices for rent everywhere you look. Businesses are going home. Everybody's at home doing their job. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody's online. Everybody's on Facebook. We're doing this, a podcast on YouTube. Like a lot of people are going to watch this on YouTube. They're not even going to leave their house. So, I think the future is to take care of people while they're at home, while they're at, you know what I'm saying? Like they can actually, and another thing, when you were talking about the price, $1,400 versus $200, I thought about it but they're saving so much money because if they're going to eat less and then eventually they're going to lose weight and all that, it's worth $300 a month, or it's worth, because you're going to save all this money on all this bad food. Eventually you're going to be eating less, more fit, more healthier, and in the long run, you're going to be saving money with all that other crap.
We talk about that all the time. Decreasing like alcohol consumption, going out to eat, buying, restaurants, fast food. Like the money you save, sure, is it going to pay your entire bill? Maybe not. Maybe for some people. But the whole point is invest in yourself if that's what you want to do, and that's what we're here for. And the conversations that we're having on telemedicine, are not conversations that are typical with your family doctor, and they should be. And that's, a clinic like us, we don't take the place of your family doctor. We're a functional clinic, we're support, we're in addition to. Same with local integrative medicine physicians and naturopathic physicians. They might try to explain to you other things that your doctor just wasn't taught and doesn't know. And it's no fault to them. It's part of that system we go back to. Lobbyists for big pharma, they control a lot of the medical school curriculum. They want us to learn this is how you take care of high blood pressure with lisinopril. This is how you take care of cholesterol with atorvastatin. They don't want you to learn, about other things that are out there. Let me give one last cool one. I don't want to go too long on this, but my wife talks about this a lot, cancer treatment. So in the 1970s, there was this a product called amygdalin, right? And it can come from like apricot seeds. And they were finding a lot of success with this with curing cancer. And when the big pharma companies, hear about this, within a few years, it's outlawed in the United States. And there's people you'll see now, they go to Mexico to get treatment with this amygdalin, and it works. And there's this concept around cancer and chemotherapy. Like, why are you taking a full-blown toxin, killing every cell in your body to try to get to a cancer? And what did we say? What feeds your body? What feeds cancer? Sugar. Right? Do you realize how many times I've seen in the cancer center at work, people are coming to get chemotherapy, and what's sitting in front of them? They put out a box of donuts. And it's like, I get it. It feels good. It's dopamine. But like, look at this system. Like, I'm eating what feeds the cancer, and I'm taking a medicine in me that destroys every cell in my body. And like, you wonder why cancer survival rates are awful and why we're not in the top 50 countries. How many other countries have outlawed red dye, certain processed foods? And why not us? Are they wrong? Or is it that we have lobbyists and a government that doesn't have our best interests? So I digress a little bit there.
But that's
these
just
conversations need to be had in 2024.
Of course. And that, remember I started the podcast, I told you about the 12% and all that. The same thing. Look, there was another guy, the same guy, the SOS guy, the guy that was talking about that. I forgot his name, but he's like Dr. something, Hammer or something. He said that he was studying a lady that she had lymphoma cancer, and she told her doctor, she said, well, this because this guy, he has like a clinic like you. It's like he helps people not with Western medicine but different things, and he talks a lot about fasting, but he does even up to like 7-day fast, 40-day fast. He got this lady to clear her cancer from a 21-day fast, and she had no cancer. And then her regular doctor was, when she first went to him, because the guy said, well, talk to your doctor. I want to put you on a fast, and I'm going to watch you. He did it with her and then made sure that everything was, good. And he didn't leave her to do it by herself. And he said that was crazy talk. Don't do it. Don't listen to that guy. That's crazy talk. But the lady still went to the clinic. She did the 21-day fast with the guy. She got rid of her cancer,
the lymphoma,
and then they did a peer-reviewed study on it. They published it in some British magazine or something, and then the British magazine said that they wanted them to study her for 10 years to see if, and it never came back
for recurrence.
It never came back.
I'm not gonna lie to you. There's a ton of cases out there, and diet again. The first thing, and I didn't come here prepared to talk about cancer, so I'm not. I'd have to research a little bit to
That's just something I heard today.
But I'm telling you, the first thing is, since what my wife's taught me and what I've learned, if I hear of any of my friends that get diagnosed with cancer, the first thing I say is eliminate sugar from your diet and go buy apricot seeds, and start doing those two things. Do some research and let's go from there. So that's what I'll share with your listeners today.
So get rid of sugar and apricot seeds.
Yeah, for the amygdalin. It's really cool. If you ever want to get down a wormhole, a rabbit hole, start reading about that stuff. Yeah. And you'll be surprised where it takes you.
Yeah, I'm gonna remember that, because I know some people that are, there's people that reach out to me and they say, hey, Yogi, they just found this thing on me, pray for me. Can you give me some advice? Because people see that what I'm doing. People, even though I'm not a doctor, I don't know that much stuff, but just from me being around like Jesus, they'll say, pray for me, or they'll say, give me a little advice about, fasting or exercise or anything, because sometimes the people get a little overwhelmed when the doctor tells them, hey, you got a little cancer, and they don't know where to go. So they see me on Facebook. Another thing is, man, by me posting all the time, by me inspiring people reach out to me. People watch this podcast. I might not know everything. There's some people that avoid it because they don't want to see, they don't want to get healthy, but there's certain people that watch me and I inspire them through my business, through my podcast, through my working out, through my fasting, and through these conversations. These conversations, I sit down with a different person every single week, and I have different conversations with all kinds of different people, and that inspires some people, man. So I appreciate you so much for coming on here. What is the optimal? Okay, I wrote down here. What is the optimal life? What is the optimal way that you see through your clinic and the stuff you're doing? What is the optimal way that someone should live? I don't know how to word that right, but
I hear you. And so there's an interesting thing in America where there's life expectancy, which in America is 77 years. And then there's years spent healthy and active. In America, that average is 66 years. So there's an 11-year gap in the United States of America of years you're alive versus years you're healthy and able to do the things you like to do. We call that lifespan versus health span. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what I think about in my life. Do I want to live longer? Absolutely. Do I want to live longer if I can't go outside and see the birds and the bees and the sun on my skin? No, I really don't. So my goal is to increase both my lifespan and my health span. And I want those to mirror as close as they can. I want to be 85 and I want to be cutting the grass the day I die, or for example. Yeah. And in order to do that, I think it's being aware of what you're putting in your body and the decisions that you make in terms of your mental health, your spiritual health, the people around you. I think it all factors in. And from a metabolic health perspective, it's everything we talked about today. I won't rehash it, but it's, avoiding some of those main things, SOS, like we said, obviously avoiding alcohol and, smoking and the things that we just know destroy your body. Yeah. But it's also understanding that you don't have to be perfect at that, right? Like, I'm not telling any of my clients or anybody, don't enjoy a beer with your buddies. Don't enjoy a drink at the baseball game. Don't have a hot dog. Don't stop at McDonald's, right? It's just understand moderation. Get it under control. And we talk about the 90-10 lifestyle a lot. 90% of the time, make as many of the right decisions as you can so that 10% of the time, when you do eat that cheeseburger and have that beer, you don't feel bad. You're not like, oh, I cheated on my diet. Now I got to start over. You're like, no, this is just my life, man. Of course I'm going to have a burger at the ball game once a month, or, it's 4th of July. I'm going to have a beer and some hot dog. And that's what I think is about life. Find your sustainability, find your normal, from your diet, your exercise, your spirituality, and who you are. Yeah,
that's a good rule. I interviewed Laura Engel, Laura Engel. I interviewed her and she said that's her rule too. So she does 90% hard work. She works out, she's a trainer, but she has that 10% where she eats unhealthy and she does this and she does that. And so if you know Laura, my cousin Pedro.
Yes.
And Beatrice. And
I do.
Oh, okay, that's
awesome. I went to school with all of those, Laura, Pedro, Beatrice.
So you went to Whitmer?
Well, I went to Washington local schools until high school, and then I went to St. Francis. So I was at Washington. I went to Hiawatha Elementary. Yeah,
all them. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Those are all my friends and my family. Appreciate you so much, Tim Scott. Right?
Yes.
You're a doc. What are you?
Yep, I'm an ER doctor.
ER doctor.
My day job
at Mercy Hospital. And then, can you tell us exactly where to find your clinic online and stuff like that?
Yeah. So if you have any interest in this, and honestly, if you just want to explore our webpage, if you want to get some information, you'll find us online at revivehealthplan.com. And we also have social media of the same. It's an R, it's an orange and blue R. We make all these content and lifestyle videos. We're not trying to sell anybody anything on social media. It's like my wife going to the grocery store, showing you how to read labels, doing things around our farm, talking about how to eat more natural. We just really try to give you like 1-minute videos on small things you can do to change your lifestyle. So I really encourage people, revivehealthplan.com. That's where you could get some information, or if you really want to book an appointment. We do the weight loss, we do peptides. We also just have what we call like proactive wellness, where if you want to get a video, get on, talk to me, bring your labs, start to come up with a plan on how to change your lifestyle. We do that kind of stuff too, because again, we don't take the place of your primary doctor, but we support them. So revivehealthplan.com, same on social media. Feel free to check us out. We're always happy to share.
Oh, okay. You know what? I just thought I remember what he said. Joe Rogan said that there's people that are living right now that are going to live to 120 years old. Because a lot of people that are dying right now, 60, 70, 80, do you believe, remember you just said that people right now the lifespan is 77, but maybe you said that you would hope that you're cutting the grass at 85. Do you think that with the knowledge that we have and the way that some of us can actually live to 100, 120 years. Do you
Yeah, well,
believe that?
I'm already 83. No, I hear you, and I do agree. And I think, tapping into these fountain of youths, doing things like NAD therapy, getting rid of senescent cells, intermittent fasting, growth hormone, all these fountain youths, I think that is going to add
The
up.
fountain of youth.
Yeah, I think it is going to change it. I really do.
So,
I believe that.
So when are you going to bring out this new fountain of youth thing? Are you still figuring out?
I'm hoping to have it ready to go by the first of the year. So
right.
that's when I'm hoping to roll that option out to my clients.
All right. And where can anybody find you? Do you do social media yourself, or everything just for the business?
Yeah, it's just for the business. I'm going to start getting a little bit more involved with my wife on it, but she's much prettier. She speaks better, so we let her do all the talking. And honestly, she is extremely knowledgeable in this. She makes my knowledge base look small.
Yeah. So you have an Instagram and a Facebook, right?
Yep. All Revive Health.
Revive Health on Revive Health on Instagram and Facebook.
Yep, and revivehealthplan.com on our website.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thank you so much for coming on my show and sharing a lot of this knowledge. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. Please get on his website, his channels, and check it out. Thank you so much. Make sure you comment, share, all that good stuff. Have faith, show love, give hope, let go, and let God.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. That was good.